Hi everyone, it's Trishna. So today we're going to focus on doing a healing on how to forgive someone else, somebody who has wronged us. So the first thing is a lot of times when we are struggling to forgive somebody, it's because we're putting way too much pressure on ourselves. We are here to try to practice unconditional love, but we're here to grow and learn how to be unconditionally loving. We're not here brought on earth just unconditionally loving everybody from the get-go. So when somebody wrongs you and you're working really hard to forgive them, you may be putting too much pressure on yourself to suddenly be able to magically love another person unconditionally, even though they have done something that maybe has very deeply hurt us. So the first thing when you're trying to forgive somebody is to take that pressure off. It isn't really your job to forgive someone else for them to feel better. It's your job to forgive someone else for yourself to feel better. So understand that distinction, that it's really not your job necessarily to forgive somebody else for what they have done or how they have treated you. It is only your job to let go of that pain for yourself to be able to move forward. So in other words, you're not doing this for them. It's not about them. You're only doing this for you. It's about you, and it's about you feeling good. And that really is the biggest key, because once you're able to make the distinction that when you are forgiving somebody, it has nothing to do with them. They are not a part of the equation. What they've done is a memory in your mind, but the healing process doesn't have to involve them. It really is just about you and you. You and your relationship with you and how you are choosing to feel about the situation. Once you're able to make that distinction, you're able to let that person go and you're able to look at the situation a bit more objectively. So then your efforts to forgive this person will become much more effective as a result, because your emotions aren't as heavily tied to the actions, because again, you're able to separate that person from the forgiveness element and look at the situation much more objectively. So now, because the forgiveness work is no longer about the other person and only about yourself, you can approach the forgiveness process in a different way. So you can look at your situation objectively again, or a bit more objectively than you were before, and you can look at it and say, okay, this is what happened to me, and it hurt. But what's an example of something that somebody else has done to another that was even worse? And when you think about that, you'd be like, oh, you know what? It's really good. Like, I'm glad that I didn't get worse. I'm glad that this is what happened to me, and this was the extent of it. You can then also think back to a time when somebody has wronged you in the past, maybe many years ago, and you no longer hold any kind of resentment to them. Maybe you remember what they did, but you're not upset about it anymore. And that will remind you that sometimes things just take time, and that's okay. And if you aren't able to forgive something right now, again, you're probably putting too much pressure on yourself. Maybe it doesn't have to happen right now. Maybe you can just set it aside and move on with other things in your life and come back to this at a later point in time. Don't put all of your pressure and all of your focus on this. Sometimes you need to let it go and make it something, you need to separate yourself emotionally from it for a little bit by distancing yourself mentally and with time from it as well. You may be able to now look at your situation and see the themes in it. This person did XYZ. When has something similar happened to me in the past? Is this a theme that maybe I am bringing into my life? And this is an opportunity for me to notice that and heal myself on deeper levels, not just heal myself on the forgiving this particular person, but heal myself on forgiving this particular situation or this particular theme or this particular wound that I may be holding within myself. When you look at the themes, again, you are separating yourself from this person, and you're just keeping the forgiveness work and the healing work between yourself and yourself. And look at what this person has done to you and consider, is this something that you feel you could do to another person? This may not be the case at all in your situation, but sometimes things that trigger us or things that upset us are often things that somebody else is doing just because they're a different person, or they were taught different etiquette, or they see the world in a different way, and that's okay. But because we were conditioned in a certain way and told we can only do XYZ and not ABC, when somebody does ABC, because we were told you can't do that, or maybe because somewhere inside we prevent ourselves from doing ABC, when somebody does ABC, it upsets us because we're like, I can't do that, so you shouldn't be able to do that either. A randomish example, I guess, of this could be when you're younger. Maybe as a child you didn't feel like you could wear whatever you wanted to wear, that you had to be more conservative in your clothing choice and kind of stick to the what everybody else was wearing, and you didn't feel free to experiment. So when you saw somebody experimenting and wearing something totally flamboyant or totally different, you maybe saw that and were like, oh, and you had like a negative reaction to that of like, why would you ever wear that? That looks dumb. Or like you maybe, just these negative thoughts about that person because they experimented. And that could just be that in your mind, you were told you can't wear anything but this, or if you wear anything but this, you'll be made fun of. And so when you see somebody doing what you were told you couldn't do, you have a negative reaction. You feel like they shouldn't be doing that. It's wrong. When really, it's really just because inside of ourselves we were conditioned that that is wrong, but it's not necessarily wrong, it's just different. So again, that one may not apply to everybody or every situation. Sometimes people just wrong you and that's that. Like they've truly just done something that just wasn't right and that's that. But sometimes if we can find the themes, or if we can see what are they doing, and do I feel like I'm not allowed to do that? Do I trap myself and prevent myself from doing that? And is that why I'm upset about this? Is a way for you to do some self-reflection and heal on yourself. Again, this has nothing to do with you changing yourself so that you can be okay with what they did. This is all about you healing and growing for yourself and not for the other person. So if you're struggling to forgive somebody in your life, or somebody who has wronged you, I hope that this helps you take the pressure off, because if you're really struggling to forgive them, it's probably because you're putting way too much pressure. You feel like you have to forgive them and it's about them, or you feel like you have to forgive them now in this moment, or that you've been holding on to this for too long. So I hope that you take some of that pressure off, because that's what's really making it hard, because at the end of the day, it's not about them. It's about you and healing aspects of yourself and growing for yourself and your own journey, and they're just not a part of that equation, even though it seems like they are because they're involved in the situation. So I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. I hope I earned your like and your subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.